November 20th, 1943, 9 a.m., Betio Island, Tarawa Atoll. The water of the Pacific Lagoon is usually a brilliant, translucent turquoise, but today it is red. A thick, opaque crimson sludge that laps against the coral sand. 5,000 yards offshore, the greatest armada the world has ever seen is unleashing hell. Battleships are hurling 16-inch shells that sound like freight trains tearing through the sky. Dive bombers are screaming down, turning the tiny island of Betio into a smoking volcano of coral dust and fire. To the admirals watching through binoculars on the bridge of the USS Maryland, it looks like a parking lot. They have promised the Marines that there won't be a living thing left on that island. But nature has a different plan, and nature is about to kill 3,000 Americans. As the first wave of Higgins boats, the square-jawed landing craft carrying the Marines, roars toward the beach, they hit something the maps didn't show: a neap tide, a freakishly low water level that exposes a jagged wall of coral reef 500 yards from the shore. Crunch. The boats slam into the coral and grind to a halt. The ramps drop, but instead of dry sand, the Marines step into chest-deep water. And then the dead island wakes up. From the smoking ruins of the Japanese bunkers, the chatter of Nambu machine guns erupts. It isn't random fire, it is grazing fire, mathematically calculated to skim exactly 6 inches above the surface of the water. The Marines are trapped. They can't run. They can't swim because of their 80-pound packs. They have to wade 500 yards. That is 5 football fields of open water walking at the speed of a nightmare into a wall of lead. You can see the bullets splashing the water like heavy rain. You can hear the sickening thwack of rounds hitting meat. The lagoon begins to fill with bodies bobbing in the surf, their packs dragging them under. It is a massacre, a slaughter so profound, so visceral, that it shakes the United States Navy to its foundation. Back in Pearl Harbor, the after-action reports land on the desk of Admiral Chester Nimitz. They are devastating. We had the ships, we had the planes, we had the men, but we lost because we didn't know the depth of the water. The Navy realizes they have a fatal blind spot. They can destroy anything they can see, but they cannot fight what is underwater. They need a solution, but they don't need hydrographers or scientists. They don't need men who can draw charts. They need men who can swim into the throat of a Japanese canyon, unarmed, and measure the depth of the water while being shot at. They need men crazy enough to value a piece of intelligence more than their own lives. They need a new breed of warrior. And to find them, the Navy doesn't go to the Naval Academy. They don't go to the parade grounds. They go to the stockades. They go to the construction sites. They look for the brawlers, the drinkers, the insubordinate misfits who hate officers but love a fight. They are looking for 40 men to do a job that 30,000 Marines couldn't do. December 1943, Fort Pierce, Florida. The mosquitoes in Fort Pierce are so thick you can inhale them. The humidity clings to your skin like a wet wool blanket. It is a miserable, swampy stretch of coastline that nobody wants. And that is exactly why Lieutenant Commander Draper Kaufman chose it. Kaufman is a man tasked with solving the Tarawa problem, and he is not your typical naval officer. Before the US even entered the war, he was driving ambulances in France. He was captured by the Nazis, held in a POW camp, released, and then joined the British Navy to defuse underwater mines during the Blitz. He is a man who treats high explosives with the casual familiarity of a mechanic handling a wrench. He has poor eyesight, but a vision that is crystal clear. He knows that to stop the slaughter in the Pacific, he doesn't need soldiers, he needs pirates. He travels to the CB battalions, the construction battalions. These are the men who build airstrips and docks. They're older, tougher and notoriously undisciplined. They are welders, steel workers, and longshoremen who join the Navy to fight, only to be handed a shovel. Kaufman walks into the brigs and the stockades. He looks at the men engaging in bar fights. He looks for the troublemakers. "I'm looking for volunteers," Kaufman tells them, "for a job that is probably suicide. But if you survive, you get to blow things up." He gathers a group of roughnecks, misfits, and Olympic-level swimmers, and then he invents a concept that will become the stuff of a legend. He invents Hell Week. At Fort Pierce, the training isn't about learning to march. It's about breaking the human spirit and seeing if it can put itself back together. For 7 days, the men run miles in soft sand until their feet bleed. They carry telegraph poles, massive logs soaked in water on their shoulders for hours. They are thrown into the ocean at night and told to swim against the rip currents. And every step of the way, dynamite is exploding. Kaufman believes that men need to get used to the sound of concussions underwater. So while they swim, instructors throw half-pound blocks of TNT into the water next to them. Boom! The shock wave hits them in the chest like a sledgehammer. It is terrifying. It is dangerous. It is also necessary. But the most revolutionary part of the training isn't the explosives. It's the leadership. In the regular Navy, officers eat in the wardroom and sleep in cabins. At Fort Pierce, there is no rank. Kaufman strips off his shirt. He runs with the men. He carries the logs. He swims the miles. He makes a promise. "I will not ask you to do anything I will not do myself." One day, during a particularly brutal set of calisthenics in the mud, a recruit collapses. He wants to quit. He looks up and sees the commander, the spectacled and exhausted, doing push-ups right next to him in the muck. The recruit gets back up. This creates a bond that the regular military cannot understand. It creates a tribe. They strip away the equipment. They realize that heavy boots and helmets are death sentences in the water. They adopt a uniform that would get them court-martialed on any other base. A pair of swim trunks, a diving mask, huge rubber swim fins, and a K-bar knife strapped to the leg. They call themselves the UDTs, Underwater Demolition Teams, but the rest of the Navy calls them the Naked Warriors. By January 1944, the first teams are ready. They're bronzed, incredibly fit, and possess a swagger that borders on insanity. They have learned how to map a reef with a pencil and a piece of slate while holding their breath. They have learned how to wire a demolition charge in pitch blackness underwater. But training is not war. In the Pacific, the Japanese have spent years turning the island of Kwajalein into a fortress. They have mined the lagoons. They have zeroed their artillery on the reefs. They are waiting for the Americans to make the same mistake they made at Tarawa. The UDTs are shipped out. They're crammed onto high-speed transport destroyers. They sharpen their knives. They check their fins. And as the fleet approaches the Marshall Islands, Admiral Turner, the man who commanded the disaster at Tarawa, makes a decision. He isn't going to send the Marines in blind this time. He's going to send the ghosts first. But nobody knows if the concept will actually work. Can a man in swim trunks really swim up to a Japanese bunker, map the beach, and swim back without being slaughtered? The answer is waiting in the cold black water of the lagoon. And the UDTs are about to find out that the Japanese have prepared a welcome mat of barbed wire and high explosives just for them. June 14th, 1944, 09:30 a.m., the lagoon of Saipan. The bombardment ships fall silent. The rolling thunder of the 16-inch gun stops. A strange, eerie hush falls over the invasion fleet. On the Japanese-held island of Saipan, 30,000 defenders emerge from their bunkers. They look out at the ocean, confused. Why have the Americans stopped shooting? Is the invasion beginning? They man their machine guns, fingers tightening on triggers, scanning the horizon for the white wakes of the landing craft. But there are no landing craft. Instead, the Japanese commander peering through his telescope sees something that makes no tactical sense. A few thousand yards out, small rubber boats deploy, and from them, hundreds of tiny, dark shapes slip into the water. They look like seals. They bob in the swell, disappearing and reappearing. It is the UDTs, and they are doing the unthinkable. They are swimming toward the most heavily defended beach in the Mariana Islands in broad daylight. The Misfits of Fort Pierce are about to go to work. They are unarmed. They carry no rifles. They carry no grenades. Their kit consists of a pair of swim trunks, a diving mask, a plastic sleeve to write on, and a fishing line marked with knots to measure depth. They are swimming directly into the kill zone of 30,000 enemy soldiers with nothing but a pencil. As they get closer to the reef, the Japanese realization turns into disbelief. Are these men trying to swim to Tokyo? Are they survivors of a shipwreck? The Japanese hold their fire. They are bewildered. It seems impossible that the American Navy would send naked men to attack a fortress. This hesitation buys the UDTs precious minutes. They spread out in a line, swimming parallel to the beach. They dive, they measure the coral heads, they check for mines, they scribble data onto their plexiglass slates with grease pencils. Depth, 3 feet. Obstacle, concrete tetrahedrons. Bottom, soft sand. Then, a Japanese sniper realizes what is happening. Crack! A bullet splashes inches from a swimmer's head. Then a machine gun opens up. Then a mortar. The spell breaks. The water around the reef begins to boil. The Japanese unleash everything they have. But here's where the Hell Week training pays off. The UDTs don't panic. They don't turn back. They simply dive. They have learned that water is the best armor in the world. A high-velocity rifle bullet shatters or loses its energy within 2 feet of water. As long as they stay submerged, they are ghosts. You watch them pop up for a breath, gasp, and disappear again like dolphins. They are playing a lethal game of whack-a-mole with the Imperial Japanese Army. One UDT swimmer, engaging in a moment of pure, adrenaline-fueled insanity, swims all the way to the pier. He climbs up, dripping wet, right under the noses of the Japanese gunners. He isn't there to fight. He grabs a fuse from a mine to bring back for analysis, flips a middle finger at the bunker, and dives back into the sea before they can traverse their guns. It is the ultimate act of mockery. For an hour, they work. They turn the mystery of the reef into a map. They find the channels, they find the mines. Then, at a signal, they turn and swim back to the boats. The recovery maneuver is a stunt straight out of a circus. The high-speed boats don't stop. If they stop, they get hit by mortars. They roar past the swimmers at full throttle. The UDT men hold up a rubber loop, hook it with their arm, and are yanked out of the water at 20 knots, flopping into the boat like landed tuna. They are bruised, they are exhausted, some are bleeding, but they have the data. That night, aboard the flagship, the admirals look at the charts drawn by the criminals. They see the path, they see the trap, they adjust the landing zones. The next morning, when the Marines hit Saipan, they don't get stuck on the reef, they don't drown in the surf. They glide through the channels marked by the UDTs and drive their tanks straight up the beach. The Japanese defenders are stunned. The natural barrier they relied on has been neutralized by men in swim trunks. But the Navy realizes that mapping the obstacles isn't enough. The Japanese are filling the lagoons with thousands of tons of steel rail, concrete, and logs to rip the bottoms out of the landing craft. The UDTs have proven they can scout. Now the admirals have a darker question. Can they destroy? The order comes down for the next invasion. The UDTs are no longer just surveyors. They are being given thousands of pounds of tetratol explosives. They are about to transform from human sensors into human torpedoes. February 17, 1945. 2 days before D-Day. Iwo Jima. The water is cold. 68 degrees doesn't sound freezing, but when you have been submerged for 3 hours without a wetsuit, it sucks the heat from your core until your teeth chatter so hard you risk biting through your breathing tube. Team 15 is in the water. They are swimming toward the black sands of Iwo Jima. But this time, they aren't carrying slate boards. They are beasts of burden. Strapped to their backs, their chests, and their legs are canvas sacks filled with tetratol explosives. Each man is a floating bomb. The Japanese defenders on Mount Suribachi look down at the ocean. They have learned from Saipan. They know what the Sea Devils are doing. The artillery opens up, but this isn't the sporadic fire of the previous battles. This is a curtain of steel. Mortar splash into the sea, creating underwater concussions that hit the swimmers like a punch to the gut. The overpressure squeezes their lungs, rupturing capillaries. They cough blood into their masks, but they keep swimming. Their target is the reef itself. The Japanese have not only mined the approaches, they have relied on the jagged geography to tear the bottoms out of the American landing craft. The UDTs have to surgically remove the geology of the island. The men work in pairs, creating a chain of explosives. They tie the packs to the coral heads. They wire the fuses with numb, shaking fingers. It is a task that requires the delicacy of a watchmaker, performed in a washing machine of churning surf and shrapnel. One swimmer, Draper Kaufman, the man who started it all, is right there with them. He cuts his leg on the coral. The salt water stings, and the blood attracts the sharks that patrol these waters. But he ignores it. He checks the fuses. He pats a young sailor on the shoulder. They aren't just clearing a path, they are engaged in a psychological war. At the island of Guam, just months prior, the UDTs had pulled off the ultimate prank. After clearing the beach under heavy fire, they took a piece of cardboard from a ration box and nailed it to a palm tree right in the center of the invasion zone. When the Marines stormed the beach the next morning, adrenaline pumping, bayonets fixed, expecting a fight for every inch, the first thing they saw was that sign. It read, "Welcome Marines, courtesy of UDT-4. It was a swagger that said, "We were here first. We cleared the way. You're welcome." Back at Iwo Jima, the fuses are set. The UDTs turn and swim for their lives. They have to get clear of the blast radius. 3, 2, 1. The ocean erupts. A massive wall of whitewater creates a man-made tsunami. The reef is pulverized. The mines are detonated. The path is clear. When the smoke clears, the naked warriors are hauled back onto their transport ships. They are shivering, blue-lipped, and covered in coral scrapes. They are given a shot of whiskey and a warm blanket. They watch from the rails as the invasion fleet moves in. They see the young Marines, heavily laden, terrified, praying, heading toward the beach. The UDTs don't pray. They know exactly what is down there. They know exactly how deep the water is. And they know that because of what they did in the dark, thousands of those boys are going to make it to the sand alive. The UDTs would go on to clear the beaches at Okinawa, the bloodiest battle of the Pacific. They would suffer casualties. They would lose men to mortars, to snipers, and to the crushing pressure of the sea. But by the time the atomic bombs fell and the war ended, the Misfits of Fort Pierce had proven something undeniable. They had proven that a small, highly trained group of men, operating with unconventional tactics and absolute fearlessness, could accomplish what an entire battleship could not. They had invented a new kind of warfare, and the Navy decided they were too dangerous to let go. 1962, the White House, Washington, D.C. The world has changed. The Nazis are gone. The Japanese Empire is dust. A new enemy has risen, the Soviet Union. The Cold War is fought in the shadows, in the jungles of Vietnam, and in the proxy wars of the Third World. President John F. Kennedy looks at the military landscape. He sees massive armies designed to fight World War III in Europe, but he knows the next war won't be fought with tank divisions. It'll be fought by guerrillas. It will be fought in the rivers and the deltas. He needs a force that can operate from the sea, air, and land. He signs the paper. The UDTs didn't disappear after 1945. They evolved. They kept the dive masks, they kept the swim fins, but they added jump wings. They added automatic weapons. They learned to kill on land as efficiently as they demolished that sea. The Misfits became the SEAL teams. If you go to Coronado, California today, to the basic underwater demolition / SEAL training, BUDS, you will see a massive concrete grinder where the students exercise. You will see the Pacific Ocean where they freeze during Hell Week. The technology has changed. They have rebreathers now. They have GPS. They have stealth boats. But the DNA is identical. Every time a Navy SEAL rings the bell to quit during Hell Week, he is failing the test that Draper Kaufman invented in a swamp in Florida in 1943. Every time a SEAL team emerges from the water in the dead of night to strike a target, they are walking in the wet footprint of the men who swam into the guns of Saipan with nothing but a pair of swim trunks and a K-bar knife. They sent 40 criminals to fight an empire, and in the process, they forged the tip of the spear.